Hello everyone. Welcome to the channel, a spiritual user manual for life. This channel is dedicated to reading, unpacking, and analyzing the text section of the book, A Course in Miracles. It contains valuable knowledge, very much in need by everyone. Because of the philosophical style it is written in, many have difficulty comprehending it, having studied it for many years. I offer my understanding. The sparkly edition version of the course is used. As a Langnap, I include knowledge drawn from the Seth books of Jane Roberts. This video is for the section in Chapter 2, the Reinterpretation of Defenses. This is a long section which I have split into two videos, A and B. This is Part B, to distinguish between the text and my commentary. The word text will precede the text. The word comments will precede the commentary. Note: as per the course, the voice of the text is that of Jesus. Let's begin. Chapter 2, the Reinterpretation of Defenses. Part B, comments. First, a quick recap of the Part A video. A key attribute of the mind is its ability to project. Bring into reality, physical or otherwise, its contents, those being our thoughts, beliefs, emotions, objectives, and will. That's why it is very important that they be based in truth and in accord with the will and laws of our Creator. Over time, we allowed all sorts of mistruths, lies, distortions, misinformation, etc., to enter and take deep roots in our minds. As expected, the results were numerous miscreations and accompanying fears, with many having disastrous effects. To protect ourselves, we developed numerous defenses. They only led to more miscreations and further complicated our predicament. Here, techniques are offered on how to reinterpret or properly use some of these defenses. This way, we transform the projections from negative to positive miscreations, avoid or limit their undesirable effects, while undoing our predicament. A viewing of the Part A video would be helpful. Text: the atonement is the only defense which cannot be used destructively. That is because, while everyone must eventually join it, it is not a device which was generated by man. The atonement principle was in effect long before the atonement itself began. The principle was love, and the atonement itself was an act of love. Acts were not necessary before the separation, because the time-space belief did not exist. It was only after the separation that the defense of atonement and the necessary conditions for its fulfillment were planned. It became increasingly apparent that all of the defenses which man can choose to use constructively or destructively were not enough to save him. It was therefore decided that he needed a defense which was so splendid that he could not misuse it, although he could refuse it. His choice could not, however, turn it into a weapon of attack, which is the inherent characteristic of all other defenses. The atonement thus becomes the only defense which is not a two-edged sword. The atonement actually began long before the crucifixion. Many souls offered their efforts on behalf of the separated ones, but they could not withstand the strength of the attack and had to be brought back. Angels came too, but their protection did not suffice, because the separated ones were not interested in peace. They had already split their minds and were bent on further dividing rather than reintegrating. The levels they introduced into their minds turned against each other, and they established differences, divisions, cleavages, dispersions, and all the other concepts related to the increasing splits which they produced. Not being in their right minds, they turned their defenses from protection to assault and acted literally insanely. It was essential to introduce a split-proof device, which could be used only to heal if it were used at all. The atonement was built into the space-time belief in order to set a limit on the need for the belief and ultimately to make learning complete. The atonement is the final lesson. Learning itself, like the classrooms in which it occurs, is temporary. The ability to learn has no value when change of understanding is no longer necessary. The eternally creative have nothing to learn. Only after the separation was it necessary to direct the creative forces to learning, because changed behavior had become mandatory. Comments. The predicament we find ourselves in is very challenging. We've been experiencing this as far back as recorded history goes. possibly even further. The causes are numerous. Seth, in his infinite wisdom, distilled it as ignorance or laziness. Ignorance, in that we are not aware of nor properly understand the basics of the mind, the laws of creation, and our Creator's will for us. Laziness, because we are not willing to comply with what this knowledge requires. The ignorance void is addressed by various religious manuscripts such as the Bible, the Vedas, and the Torah, the contributions of individuals such as Jesus, Buddha, Edgar Cayce, and Satya Sai Baba. More recently, the Seth books of Jane Roberts and A Course in Miracles. They require some effort to educate ourselves, which is the objective of the videos of this channel with respect to the Seth books of Jane Roberts and A Course in Miracles. The laziness part is a little more challenging. It is about those that have the knowledge, but choose to do otherwise. In the bigger picture, this can also be considered ignorance, for they are yet to learn that while you can misunderstand the laws, even try to bend them, you cannot misuse them. There are consequences. Over time, our spiritual guardians tried various methods to bring this awareness to us. Success was limited, for we always found a way to weaponize them. Look at what happened with Jesus. But failure was not an option. This would mean our Creator made a mistake. A wise woman once said, "God don't make no junk." The process continued and led to the plan of atonement. Created out of love, unable to be weaponized, complete, perfect, and to remain in effect until all are made aware. Time to listen up. Text. Men can learn to improve their behavior and can also learn to become better and better learners. This serves to bring them into closer and closer accord with the sonship. But the sonship itself is a perfect creation, and perfection is not a matter of degree. Only while there are different degrees is learning meaningful. The evolution of man is merely a process by which he proceeds from one degree to the next. He corrects his previous missteps by stepping forward. This represents a process which is actually incomprehensible in temporal terms, because he returns as he goes forward. The atonement is the device by which he can free himself from the past as he goes ahead. It undoes his past errors, thus making it unnecessary for him to keep retracing his steps without advancing to his return. In this sense, the atonement saves time, but like the miracle which serves it, does not abolish it. As long as there is need for atonement, there is need for time. But the atonement, as a completed plan, does have a unique relationship to time. Until the atonement is finished, its various phases will proceed in time, but the whole atonement stands at time's end. At this point, the bridge of the return has been built. Comments. The more we learn of the atonement, the more there is to like. Not only can it not be weaponized, it can also save us time. How does it do this? Remember, the objective of this course is to help identify and remove obstacles to the awareness of love's presence, our natural inheritance. This is accomplished through miracles. What are miracles? Acts of love? The tool of the atonement? Can love be weaponized? Think carefully before you answer. Next is the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or what you give you will receive. Well, if you only give love, that is all you will receive. So the more you embrace the atonement, the less room and time will there be to give anything else. Your miscreations, especially the negative ones, will decrease, reducing the time revisiting the past to identify, correct, and learn from them. The more you learn of this plan, the more there is to like. Text. The atonement is a total commitment. You still think this is associated with loss. This is the same mistake all the separated ones make in one way or another. They cannot believe that a defense which cannot attack is the best defense. This is what is meant by, "The meek shall inherit the earth." They will literally take it over because of their strength. A two-way defense is inherently weak, precisely because it has two edges and can turn against the self very unexpectedly. This tendency cannot be controlled except by miracles. The miracle turns the defense of atonement to the protection of the inner self, which, as it becomes more and more secure, assumes its natural talent of protecting others. The inner self knows itself as both a brother and a son. You know that when defenses are disrupted, there is a period of real disorientation accompanied by fear, guilt, and usually vacillations between anxiety and depression. This course is different in that defenses are not being disrupted, but reinterpreted, even though you may experience it as the same thing. In the reinterpretation of defenses, only their use for attack is lost. Since this means they can be used only one way, they become much stronger and much more dependable. They no longer oppose the atonement, but greatly facilitate it. Comments. This is a very important point. The total embrace of the atonement as a means of defense is necessary if we are to realize and enjoy its full benefits. This presents a problem for many of us. We live in societies where the mantra is, the best defense is a good offense, or peace through strength, or might makes right. This is a mindset that rationalizes attack as being necessary in some situations and a mandatory response in others. Turning the other cheek is not an option. Navigating this transition could be very challenging, especially if we generously attacked in the past. The best advice I can offer is to temper responses with the understanding that what you give you will receive. Find ways to moderate, minimize, and eventually eliminate attack. Eventually turn the other cheek and achieve strength through peace. It will take time. Text. The atonement can only be accepted within you. You have perceived it largely as external thus far, and that is why your experience of it has been minimal. The reinterpretation of defenses is essential in releasing the inner light. Since the separation, man's defenses have been used almost entirely to defend himself against the atonement and thus maintain the separation. They themselves generally see this as a need to protect the body. The many-body fantasies with which men's minds are engaged arise from the distorted belief that the body can be used as a means for attaining atonement. Perceiving the body as a temple is only the first step in correcting this kind of distortion. It alters part of the misperception, but not all of it. It does recognize, however, that the concept of atonement in physical terms is not appropriate. However, the next step is to realize that a temple is not a building at all. Its real holiness lies in the inner altar around which the building is built. The inappropriate emphasis men have put on beautiful church buildings is a sign of their fear of atonement and their unwillingness to reach the altar itself. The real beauty of the temple cannot be seen with the physical eye. The spiritual eye, on the other hand, cannot see the building at all because it has perfect sight. It can, however, see the altar with perfect clarity. For perfect effectiveness, the atonement belongs at the center of the inner altar, where it undoes the separation and restores the wholeness of the mind. Before the separation, the mind was invulnerable to fear, because fear did not exist. Both the separation and the fear are miscreations of the mind, which must be undone. This is what is meant by the restoration of the temple. It does not mean the restoration of the building, but the opening of the altar to receive the atonement. This heals the separation and places within man the one defense against all separation mind errors which can make him perfectly invulnerable. Comments. As we progress in understanding and accepting the plan of atonement, several benefits we could expect to realize. An increased desire to meditate, growth in inner peace, a better understanding of the soul-mind-body relationship, especially with the body being in service to the mind, better dream recall, even improvements in our intuition and ESP abilities. These will occur as a result of the opening and growth of our spiritual eye. Some refer to it as our inner or third eye. As you progress in the plan, you might even feel the desire to share this understanding with others. That's another part of the plan. Give as you've been given. Text. The acceptance of the atonement by everyone is only a matter of time. In fact, both time and matter were created for this purpose. This appears to contradict free will because of the inevitability of the final decision. If you review the idea carefully, however, you will realize that this is not true. Everything is limited in some way by the manner of its creation. Free will can temporize and is capable of enormous procrastination, but it cannot depart entirely from its creator, who set the limits on its ability to miscreate by virtue of its own real purpose. The misuse of will engenders a situation which, in the extreme, becomes altogether intolerable. Pain thresholds can be high, but they are not limitless. Eventually, everyone begins to recognize, however dimly, that there must be a better way. As this recognition becomes more firmly established, it becomes a perceptual turning point. This ultimately reawakens the spiritual eye, simultaneously weakening the investment in physical sight. The alternating investment in the two types or levels of perception is usually experienced as conflict for a long time and can become very acute. But the outcome is as certain as God. The spiritual eye literally cannot see error and merely looks for atonement. All the solutions which the physical eye seek dissolve in its sight. The spiritual eye, which looks within, recognizes immediately that the altar has been defiled and needs to be repaired and protected. Perfectly aware of the right defense, it passes over all others, looking past error to truth. Because of the real strength of its vision, it pulls the will into its service and impels the mind to concur. This reestablishes the true power of the will and makes it increasingly unable to tolerate delay. The mind then realizes with increasing certainty that delay is only a way of increasing unnecessary pain, which it need not tolerate at all. The pain threshold drops accordingly, and the mind becomes increasingly sensitive to what it would once have regarded as very minor intrusions of discomfort. The children of God are entitled to perfect comfort, which comes from a sense of perfect trust. Until they achieve this, they waste themselves and their true creative powers on useless attempts to make themselves more comfortable by inappropriate means. But the real means is already provided and does not involve any effort at all on their part. Their egocentricity usually misperceives this as personally insulting, an interpretation which obviously arises from their misperception of themselves. Egocentricity and communion cannot coexist. Even the terms are contradictory. The atonement is the only gift that is worthy of being offered to the altar of God. This is because of the inestimable value of the altar itself. It was created perfect and is entirely worthy of receiving perfection. God is lonely without his souls, and they are lonely without him. Men must learn to perceive the world as a means of healing the separation. The atonement is the guarantee that they will ultimately succeed. Comments. Somewhere on this journey we are all on. We get tired of all the chaos, war, confusion, pain, and suffering. We long for a better way. Then the atonement becomes worthy of consideration. This, believe or not, is part of its plan. We slowly begin to see and understand that life is all about choices. They all begin in our minds and are projected out. Some have desirable effects. These we consider good. Others have undesirable effects. Those we consider bad or even evil. They all serve a purpose. Opportunities to learn and practice the curriculum of this reincarnation school. The atonement is the plan of the school, designed to take us from kindergarten all the way through graduation and beyond. It is not forced upon us, but we would be very wise to adopt and practice it to the best of our abilities. When combined with the material in the Seth books, it's like taking after-school lessons and advanced courses. You learn the curriculum and a whole lot more. With a better understanding and in less time, then you can progress to really good stuff. Something to look forward to. Hope you join me for the next recording. Chapter 2. Healing as Release from Fear. If you've gotten any value from this video, please like, share, and subscribe.